The day was August 31st, 1999. Parents and children alike were shocked and demanding answers, tying up the lines at customer support and filling online chat rooms. Earlier that day, beloved toy company Ty Inc. had posted on their website that all beanies will be retired as of December 31st.
A panic ensued after this announcement, causing collectors to begin feverishly buying up Beanie Babies and flooding auction sites. Concerned parents tried desperately to reach out to the company, but it seemed that even customer service representatives were caught off guard, only hearing about the announcement hours beforehand themselves. Speculation ran wild, and some smelled a publicity stunt. With the company's future unclear, and no word from company executives, it seemed that the end was nigh. No, really, they also announced the last set of Beanie Babies that day, including a black bear named The End. Get it? But before we get to the end, let's start at the beginning. Not the bear this time, because they released another one, another bear called H. Ty Warner graduated from St. John's, a Wisconsin military academy in 1962 and enrolled at Kalamazoo College in Michigan soon after as a drama student. He was even cast as the lead role during a production in his freshman year, but had to drop out of school due to inability to afford tuition. After a few years of odd jobs and trying to break into the industry as an actor, he eventually took a job at the Dakin Toy Company, which was one of, if not the largest toy manufacturers of the time, and quickly became one of their best sales representatives. Reportedly, he would meet clients by driving up in a Rolls-Royce while wearing a fur coat, top hat, and cane. I am so disappointed I could not find pictures. According to Warner himself,
I figured if I was eccentric looking in Indiana, people would think, what is he selling? Let's look in his case.
I don't know what he sounds like. That could be a good or bad impression. I have no idea. Clearly, Warner was onto something with this sales strategy, because he remained at Dakin for over a decade, making a six-figure income. None of my sources seemed to agree on the exact timeline, but he worked there somewhere between 10 to 18 years. His reason for leaving was also something that no source seemed to agree on, but it was either due to burnout or that he was fired for creating and selling his own competing toy line, not Ty Inc., on the side. After leaving Dakin, Warner traveled abroad to Italy to visit a friend and ended up staying there for 3 years. While there, he came across a cat plush that was unlike any for sale in the States. He felt inspired to pursue creating his own toy line of plush, returning home to Hinsdale, a suburb of Chicago, in 1983. Using a somewhat sizable inheritance of $50,000, adjusting for inflation, that's around $130,000 today, as well as using his own savings, he launched Ty Inc. in 1986 out of his own home. His first line of toys were 10 different variants of Himalayan cats, each with their own colors and name, like Peaches and Angel. He sold them for around $20 retail, that's about $47 today. What made these plush markedly different from others on the market was that he understuffed the animals, making them floppy and easy to pose. Most stuffed animals of the time were rigid and had limited to no posability. While there was some criticism that Ty's understuffing was a way to cheapen production and that the animals looked like roadkill, Ty's cats began gaining traction with local shops and some of the old retailers he knew from his time at Dakin. The company continued to expand, and then it finally happened. The first Beanie Babies were introduced at the 1993 New York World Toy Fair and came to be known as the Original 9. Chocolate the Moose, Brownie, later renamed to Cubby the Bear, Flash the Dolphin, Legs the Frog, Patty the Platypus, Pinchers the Lobster, Splash the Whale, Spot the Dog, first released without a spot, but later releases included a spot on his back, and Squealer the Pig. I actually have a Squealer. It's one of the later releases, and for some reason, he's also really dirty.
This new line of plush had several features that set them apart from other toys, chiefly the introduction of PVC pellets combined with the stuffing, a heart-shaped tie tag that listed the animal's name and style number, and a tush tag that listed the copyright and manufacturing info. In 1994, Ty modified the hang tag to open like a locket, and in 1996 they started to include a poem about the plush, which was a cute addition to the brand. Later, tush tags were given a holographic logo to help identify forgeries.
Of all the features of the Beanie Babies, most notably of all was that they retailed for $5 each, a little under $9 today, and were intended to be inexpensive enough for children to purchase with their own pocket money. This new line of toys was fairly well received. By 1994, more animals began getting added to the roster, drumming up more and more consumer interest with each new edition. Warner restricted the sale of plush to only small shops and toy stores at the beginning, and limited the numbers each retailer could buy to 36 of each character a month. This created a sense of scarcity and heightened demand for the dolls, because you never knew when or where you'd be able to get your hands on a specific style. The company also adopted a rather tight-lipped approach when it came to revealing how many Beanie Babies were being manufactured and what locations would carry specific animals. The demand for beanies started to really take off, but it wasn't until a decision made in 1996 that the craze really hit its fever pitch. Warner announced on the Thai website that some of the styles of Beanie Babies would be retiring, meaning they would no longer be produced after a specific date. Collectors began buying up and selling these retired beanies for double and triple their original prices in aftermarket auctions, and the movement was gaining momentum fast. There was suddenly an urgency for customers to jump on new beanies as soon as they could to be sure they didn't miss out, and have it as a possible investment, because Beanie Babies were starting to sell for exorbitant prices online, even the $1,000 range for particularly hard to find styles. And this is 1990s $1,000.
In like 2 years, they're worth like $245 and stuff.
He's worth about $4,000.
Debbie spent $1,800 on this hard-to-find bear.
People were starting to line up outside stores on restock days, and some stores even instituted wait lists due to customer demand. Travelers would go to other countries to stock up on beanies they couldn't find in the States and bring them back with them. There was such a strong demand for Beanie Babies that they became considered an investment. Even a divorcing couple spent hours sitting on the courtroom floor splitting up their collection. And this is real, I am not making this up, this happened in 1999. By 1998, Thai Inc. made over $1.3 billion, and that's about $2 billion today, and employees took home an end-of-the-year bonus equal to their salaries. A new market of beanie-related products took the form of display cases and heart protectors to ensure that children with the audacity to even try to touch their own toys wouldn't devalue them by damaging the hang tags. Parents were convinced that their children's Beanie Baby collection would one day pay for their college educations. I find this especially humorous, not only because of the crazy high cost of a college education now, but also because most of these things are listed on eBay for like a couple dollars each. I could probably barely afford a hamburger with my Beanie Baby net worth, let alone a higher education. Even the Princess Diana bear, which keeps getting listed for tens of thousands of dollars, can be bought for a little more than $10.
There's a lot of variations of the bear. There's a lot of things that make it worth money over another. But the bottom line is, from what I've researched on them, people that deal in these say that no one princess bear should be worth more than about $130.
My final grand total of its worth?
Approximately $16.
There are certainly a few beanies that are rare enough to earn you a pretty penny, I'm not going to deny that, but for the most part I've always felt like this whole "these will finance your schooling" ideas were one of the biggest and virtually harmless lies my generation fell for. Except I was wrong, because some people were harmed, financially and sometimes physically. After reading up on all this Beanie Baby info, I also came across a few articles about the rampant beanie-related crimes and tragedies taking place across the world.
There were instances of children being trampled by eager shoppers, a smuggling ring across the US and Canadian border, armed robberies, fistfights, price gouging, and forgeries, to name a few.
But above all, my favorite is about a heist of about $20,000 worth of Beanie Babies from a distribution van in Columbus, Ohio, by a criminal simply known as the Beanie Baby Bandit, which is a moniker that is equal parts hilarious and adorable. The suspect in custody, a 77-year-old man, was later acquitted, I tried looking up some more information to see if they later found the culprit, but the most I could find were postings about Bandit the raccoon from the Beanie Boo line and Bandit the dog from the Beanie Balls line, and a 2006 article about a different incident where families in an East Bay neighborhood of San Francisco were suddenly finding Beanie Babies strewn across their yards. So less of a bandit and more like a freakish Secret Santa. This happened for weeks, and the families, unsure of the reason and fearing a stalker, called the police, but it seems the bandit was too sneaky for them, so they turned to using video surveillance. What was found was footage of a 7-year-old cat named Gertie carrying Beanie Babies into the yard and leaving them there, which was probably the most delightful outcome in my opinion. The cat was put on house arrest, and the incidents seemed to end, but one question remained. Where was Gertie sourcing her Beanie Babies? A neighbor, and one-time suspect himself, reportedly had a bag full of Beanie Babies on his property, but he argued that the number found exceeded his collection, and still believed that a human was responsible, also supposedly finding a Beanie Baby on his own property after Gertie was already in custody. As far as I know, neither of the Beanie Baby bandits have been definitively caught and could still be at large today. Another cause of senseless Beanie Baby crime were instances of fistfights at McDonald's, so pretty par for the course.
Your kids can get teeny Beanie Babies in a Happy Meal. Real Thai Beanie Babies in a mini size. To toss, tuck, or just plain love.
They partnered with Thai in 1997 to bring the public teeny Beanie Babies, which were basically smaller versions of the full-size ones, offered as Happy Meal toys. Teeny Beanies were brought back several times and collectors were eager to get their hands on more. You'd think in a worst-case scenario, the most anyone ever spent was maybe a couple $1,000s on Beanie Babies, but you would be wrong. One of the most cited examples was Chris Robinson, known for his role as Dr. Weber in the soap opera General Hospital. He reportedly invested $100,000 in Beanie Babies to one day resell to pay for his children's college education. According to a 2015 New York Post article, he still has over 20,000 Beanie Babies in his home. The family would recruit friends and pretend not to know each other while they stood in line to help them skirt around buyer limits, and they would befriend shop owners to gain inside information on availability to build up their collection. And they would painstakingly catalog and store and put protectors on hang tags of each plush on the weekends to keep them in mint condition. His son later created a short documentary on YouTube about their plight called Bankrupt by Beanies. The video interviews members of the family and showcases boxes upon boxes of Beanie Babies. The video ends, I guess we'll see who's crazy in 20 years. I generally hope that Beanie Babies come back, if nothing but for that family's sake. It seemed at the peak nothing could quell the demand for Beanie Babies, but the end was not far. In early 1999, after announcing the retirement of several Beanies, something unexpected happened. Nothing. Typically when a retired Beanie Baby was announced, there would be a rush on that particular beanie, and its value would jump up. But surprisingly, aftermarket prices for these particular styles stayed stagnant, a bad sign. Suddenly the web was inundated with panicked collectors trying to sell off their stock, and the market was flooded. Everyone was selling, but nobody seemed to be buying. The Beanie bubble had finally burst.
But abruptly this week, the makers of Beanie Babies, Thai Incorporated, announced over the internet that it's over.
What happened was the chat room actually got flooded.
Leonard Tannenbaum's Beanie Nation website was overwhelmed with mournful messages like, "The end is coming."
Thai Inc. announced on August 31st of that year that all beanies would be retired indefinitely by December 31st. After the initial panicked frenzy, and looking for answers from a notoriously tight-lipped company, many turned to online chat rooms and forums to speculate. Some believed that Thai was simply planning on rolling out a new line of toys in the new year. Others wondered if the company had been bought out, or planned to cease operations entirely, while others theorized that this was all a ploy to drum up consumer interest. The news blamed Pokemon. Okay. As the millennium came to a close, everything seemed uncertain about what the future would bring. I think most people were more worried about Y2K at the time, but I was worried about Beanie Babies. Finally, in February of 2000, Ty made another announcement. Beanie Babies were making a comeback due to popular demand. To kick things off, a new sparkly bear was announced named the Beginning Bear. Get it? This announcement was no doubt exciting to many collectors, but was also confirmation to many other that Ty had indeed performed a publicity stunt the year before just to pump up demand again. For some, there was a sense of betrayal and distrust, and although Beanie Babies continued to be produced, sales never really recovered. Aftermarket values eventually declined to more than 98% of their 90s value. Ty Warner himself still seems to be doing pretty good financially, maintaining billionaire status. He apparently bought the Four Seasons in New York in 1999 and is still involved in the hotel and toy business today. He seemed to have run into a bit of trouble in 2014 for stashing $100 million in an offshore Swiss bank account, and according to an article from Chicago Magazine, the judge sentenced Warner to 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and a $100,000 fine. He's apparently quite the philanthropist, donating tens of millions to foundations for underprivileged youth and being associated with organizations such as the Elizabeth Glasser Pediatric AIDS Foundation, Children's Hunger Fund, and the American Red Cross. He also reportedly had a disdain for scalpers and big-time collectors that made aftermarket prices soar, even suing a few and calling them nuts. Despite everything, it seems that Ty Warner is sort of known for being a recluse and rarely took part in interviews, despite the fact that he seems like the person who enjoys being in the limelight. There are quite a few photographs of him. Most of my resources were pretty split on him as a person. Some were pretty flattering biographies on Beanie Baby fan sites, and others were articles about the Beanie Baby craze that would pepper in statements from people that knew him, saying things along the lines of, "He had a bad attitude problem." However you decide to view Ty Warner is up to you. Honestly, the more I learn about him, the more I'm convinced he's a toy-making version of Willy Wonka, so make of that what you will. The company is still going strong with later releases like the big-eyed, ootsy-cutesy Beanie Boos that really gained traction with children especially, but the demand for them never really hit the same heights that Beanie Babies did. I went to the website to see what was available currently, and I love this Sven. I need him. There's also a few other movies and TV shows that have some plush, like The Avengers, but for some reason the only ones they have listed are the Beanie Balls kind, which look adorable as animals, but when the character is a buff superhero, like, could you imagine being a bank robber? You and the boys are pulling off your big heist, and then suddenly this guy rolls up? Literally, because he's a ball. Anyways, I think Beanie Babies are such a fascinating relic of the 90s, right up there with Furbies, because their fanatical collectors also included a lot of adults too, treating these cheap, pellet-filled stuffed toys like they were the most precious of diamonds. I guess it's interesting because we're used to hearing this mentality passed around that once you become a certain age, toys aren't meant to be appealing and you need to grow up. So when something comes around that people of any age seem to embrace wholeheartedly, there's a kind of excitement and sincerity there, especially for something as abundantly available as plush. Like, you could get a stuffed bear from any company, but you need to get the Garcia bear because it was just retired and you'll never be able to get it again. I'm aware that there are plenty of adult collectors of toys, whether for future profit, for their children, a collection they started as children, or just because they enjoy having them.
Love them, and I'm obsessed.
Like with any fad, there's bound to be negative aspects and stories of worst case scenarios, but there's also plenty of good that can come with it too. Children loved them. Beanie Babies were a low ticket item when you bought them at retail, let's not talk about aftermarket, so I'm sure a lot of children have fond memories of being able to purchase them with birthday money or allowances, or trading with each other, or just playing with them, like children are supposed to. There's also a lot of nostalgia and positive memories people always associate with things that they were passionate about, like taking the time to learn the names and poems of the animals you liked, or deciding to wait in line for the next big release, or starting a phone tree to find out where they are. There's almost more of a rush with the anticipation of getting something cool than actually having it, which is probably a factor in why so many collectors were so eager to get Beanie Babies, and to jump on the bean wagon. The thrill of starting a collection and investing time and money to track everything down eventually is just fun. So I'm turning 28 this month. I think in normal circumstances, I would still be feeling a sense of nostalgia for the simpler times trademark, but especially because I've been stuck inside since March, I've been reminiscing about my childhood and looking through old boxes more and more, digging up my old login information for Neopets and Gaia Online in a futile attempt to capture some of that carefree whimsy. It's more just made me realize that I was really embarrassing as a kid. I also found a couple old creative writing notebooks and sketchbooks, but that's an ordeal for another time. Eventually my focus shifted to my Beanie Babies and other Thai brand products that I just couldn't bring myself to give away. I have a fair number of Beanie Babies, and a few teeny Beanie Babies. Also some releases from later lines, like the Beanie Boppers and the Attic Treasure Collection, but I had never really considered myself much of a collector at the time. I was just a child who liked stuffed animals, and a lot of them happened to be Beanie Babies. But looking at all these, yes, I was a collector. At the time, I would say most kids were. I don't think I knew anyone who didn't have at least one or two at home. I actually got at least half of these as gifts or prizes. So even if your parents didn't get one for you, a friend or relative probably would have. And once the trend was on the decline, they became incredibly easy to rack up. But I'm not really here to just talk about Beanie Babies. I'm here to talk about the trading cards. I was a trading card fanatic as a kid, and like most of them at the time, it was all about Pokemon. But I also had a hefty collection of Beanie Baby cards. And let me tell you, it was an obscure interest, at least where I lived. The cards ran from about 1998 to 1999 and were divvied up into 4 official series sets, though there were a few unofficial lines. If everyone I knew had a Beanie Baby, I would say out of them, only 2 collected the trading cards. And they were sisters. And we would buy them together. We actually had our own little trading group where we would open our booster packs together and try to complete our own collections. Granted, I'm sure plenty of others were buying and collecting them in town, but it very much felt like the 3 of us were the only ones. There was only one place in town I knew of that sold the cards, and it was a specific toy store. We would have a semi-regular routine of going to the mall with our mothers, sometimes to see a movie, other times to just get a soft pretzel and walk around. This particular mall had 2 toy stores. One was KB Toys, which was a pretty big national chain at the time and featured this little pen in front of the entrance that had electric barking dog toys and this roly-poly ball that had a tail on it, and it always caught every child's attention immediately. This was the cool toy store that every kid wanted to go into. I think that particular location stayed in business until I was in middle school. The other toy store at the mall was a smaller, more quiet one that I cannot for the life of me remember the name of, and I think it may have been a smaller chain or a locally owned store. They had more board games and the like from what I can remember. This was the store that had the Beanie Baby cards, and my friends and I used to go in and get 2 to 3 packs each at about $2 a pop. Eventually the toy store closed and our supply chain was cut off, so my dreams of completing the collection went with it. There's a whole bunch of listings on eBay for Beanie Baby cards. I didn't originally plan on buying these, but I have no impulse control when it comes to collectibles, so here I am, the consumer rube company's dream of, so I might as well make some ad revenue from it.
There were listings for series 1 through 4, which you can also find easily online as of this video, but I just got series 3 and 4 because they were the sets I grew up collecting. Also, they were cheaper.
An interesting thing about this box is that supposedly there are 24 packs to a box, but since this one came unsealed, I decided to count them all out to see if I was cheated or something. Not that I would bother contesting the sale. There wasn't a listed number of packs or any photos aside from the display box. Anyways, I counted them and there were actually 31 packs, meaning I got a bonus of 7 packs. Yes, I knew the math. I was just trying to be funny.
I actually opened up one of the extras because, again, I have no impulse control when it comes to collectibles, and my first impression from opening up a pack for the first time in about 20 years is, dang, these corners are crisp. I still have my old collection, which I keep in a binder along with my old Pokemon cards and those 6 random Neopets cards I have. Every single corner is bent or worn down from years of putting them in and taking them out of the card protectors. Each card is also embossed, so it was nice to feel a crisp new card that hasn't been smooshed in a bookshelf for decades. I also completely forgot about the sticker cards, which I guess I never hung on to, but each pack comes with a sticker sheet and a little fold-out list of all of the common cards you can collect with the series, so you can keep track of the cards you still need. The cards themselves are more or less the same between the two releases. Common cards show a photo of the beanie in front of their own name, a paw print with their style number in the corner, the Beanie Babies logo, and all of that's going to be on an environment background of some sort. There were 7 in all: farm, meadow, forest, mountain, arctic, wetlands, and aquatic. The back featured the name and poem of some of the beanies, as well as their birthday and issue date, card number, edition number, series number, the Beanie Baby Club stamp, and a little factoid. There was always one artist-proof common card per pack that came with a little foil stamp in the corner. I guess that made them worth more, but let's be honest, it's not going to be worth that much anyways now, so it's basically just a nice shiny thing to look at. Speaking of shiny things, they also featured holographic foil cards in 2 types, Wild and Birthday, whose layouts were always a little bit different. There were also some die-cut cards. The retired cards on Series 3 had their own special shape and foil embossing. I was never able to get my hands on one of those as a kid. The Beanie Buddies were 2 cards that fit together. I have 1/2 of Chili, and there are also a fair number of other special cards we can go over if I come across any.
All in all, I have 108 cards, 90 common, 8 special, and 10 unofficial. Now let's unbox 440 cards and see if I can finish my collection. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm twins with the patriotic chicken today. Homeland. So, it took a couple hours, but I was able to go through every single one of the packs and filled out my book.
Unfortunately, I didn't get all of the common cards like I'd like. There's about 20 some odd missing. You'll notice I left some empty spaces for them. Who knows, maybe I'll buy some more sometime in the future, but not anytime soon. So on the back of all the checklists, I noticed that there was a listing for the Platinum Membership Kit, and I just had to go check online to see if there were any for real cheap, and I found one for $10. All the proceeds went to charity, and I decided to also match the donation when I bought it. Unfortunately, it's not going to be here in time for the video. Maybe I'll open it during a live stream or just post a little update video when it comes in. So in the Series 4 box, they included this little lentacular postcard thing. I ended up finding it pretty fascinating and somewhat hilarious. You'll notice that it's the Thai logo, which explodes violently, revealing the end bear. I find this incredibly funny in retrospect. I thought you'd appreciate it. The Series 4 sticker sheets are actually just one giant sticker, but they're glow-in-the-dark, and then on the back there's a little coloring page. The Series 3 sticker sheets have 3 separate Beanie Baby stickers, and then also the little logo one. Each series has 21 separate styles that you could get, and I ended up getting one of each. I think it's set up that you get the entire set per box, so that's not really that surprising. What was surprising was I ended up getting 3 separate common classic cards. The common cards in the earlier series looked like these. The only thing that really differentiates them is that these ones have a little foil embossing that says Common Classic on them. So I'd like to bring your attention to this specific card. It's one of the Series 4 birthday cards, and if you'll notice, this bear's birthday is December 31st, 1999. Tie 2K. Get it? Get it? Tie 2K.
His birthday's right before the new millennium. Y2K, tie 2K.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to complete any of the Beanie Buddy sets. I ended up getting 4 halves. I got 2 Sweethearts. One thing that was interesting is that they're virtually the same, except for the name is red on this one and then blue on this one. I noticed that there was a print issue between my Tusk and Swirly cards in this set. If you look on the back, you'll notice that they're both listed as card 144. I didn't have a Swirly in my old card sets, but I did have a Tusk, so I ended up comparing them, and it looks like that number isn't correct. Tusk is actually listed as 150 in my old set, so I'm not sure which one is incorrect, but clearly there was some sort of misprinting going on between these 2 cards. I also noticed a print problem with my 2 Iggy cards. If you look at them from the front, they appear identical, but if you flip them over, one's 200 and one's 201, and the 201 card is actually a different environment from the other. So I went ahead and checked my old cards, and I do have the one that's supposed to be a mountain background. That's supposed to be Iggy with spine. So does this make the cards more valuable? I don't know, probably like a couple of cents. Who cares? I also wanted to bring your attention to this card. Nothing interesting about it, it's just Sheets is a terrifying stuffed animal. Who came up with this one?
So I didn't end up finishing the collection. Sad. But, you know, that's the fun part of collecting things, is I get to continue collecting Beanie Baby cards now that I know I can find them pretty easily online. So at least the dream doesn't end with this video. Speaking of this video, typically I just stick to art and characters and what I know, but this one was pretty fun for me. I like being passionate and sharing information about things I care about to others. So if you liked the video, if you liked the format, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll come up with some other interesting things that aren't necessarily art related, but that I could talk about for a while. So yeah, what's your opinion? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for checking out this video. It means a lot that you stuck around this long. I mean, if you did, I mean, I guess if you didn't stick around, you probably wouldn't hear Patriotism Chicken says goodbye. It's like 3 in the morning. I'm really tired. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but there was an imposter in the mix. I don't think this one's a real Beanie Baby.